All right, everybody, let's get this party started. Hey everybody, and welcome to another installment, yet another edition of Work Your Career Wednesday. As always, I'm Bradley Clark. Thrilled, honored, and blessed that you decided to stop in and join us today. And today, I'm telling you, I have an amazing guest. He is not only an accomplished CEO, starting up a new venture called Project Alliance, but I have known this guy for years. We can kind of go into the backstory on that, but I will just say that there are a few people in this industry that whose opinion I respect, whose advice I almost always take, and we're going to get into some topics that are probably a little heavy, but that's the beautiful thing about podcasts, right? The whole idea of these things usually is to have meaningful conversations and have maybe have an opinion or a perspective that maybe you have, and maybe you're called crazy. Maybe it's a new thing where you've just heard of this idea, or maybe it's validation. Who knows? But the point is that we're pulling no punches. We're going to try to keep it clean, but I'm struggling with that. But please make welcome my amazing guest and friend, Maurice Little. Mo, how you doing, brother?
Oh man, it's amazing, but you don't realize how much you miss someone that you haven't
Right.
seen for a while until you miss them until you see them again. So I miss you, man, and it's really wonderful to see you and see your handsome face.
Oh
So
well. Well, thank you. I'm employing a team of plastic surgeons to to
you're
so
good. Good.
well
You
they're
weren't
not
this
bad.
good looking before. Trust and believe.
Exactly. 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 Well, it was really funny. So the last time I like dyed my beard, because I guess I started going gray on my face, probably I don't know around 30. I don't know 37, 38. And at that point, I was still in music, and then I was on this TV show called Building a Difference. Well, we were getting ready to sort of end the show's 5-year run. Um, anyway, it's a long story. But we were doing post, you know how you watch these reality shows and they have the scene, and then you have the person, talking about the scene and talking
Yeah,
about, you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Well, I wasn't gray when we first started the show. And I was like, why don't we just keep it? No. We got to have continuity. We have to. And I was like, look, my beard was really strange because they had a lot of different colors that ended up,
yeah.
they blended and they were what they were. I said, it's not going to be the same. I am telling you, I went to one of the premier salons in Houston and I said, this is what I got to have. And it still looked like I was using a magic marker. Like, that guy on the Giants, he was a pitcher. He used,
Yeah.
there's no way you can tell me that he didn't use Just for Men, because that dude looked like it was painted on, man. Like it was so. Anyway, thank you
Dude,
very much.
well, look, man. I'm a former redhead and balding, and if I grew my hair out, it'd be like a pink afro with a hole in the middle.
Bro,
So you're
we could just like end it there. Everybody have that
picture
have
that.
that
Picture
picture in
that.
your mind. Picture that pink afro. You said pink, right?
Well,
You say pink or red?
red and white, it would be like a pink afro.
I'll be right. Awesome. Mo, I'm just gonna get into it, man. We are in an absolutely ridiculous time. Yeah, I'm not gonna go into all the politics on it, but the fact of the matter is that there are when things are chaotic in a certain way, typically, it goes top down. And what's
Right.
interesting about what we're experiencing now, man, I was in the business 23 years. Actually, I'm working with Jane's Physical Therapy, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I'm recruiting again, just in a different
In
way,
different capacity.
but I'm finding. All right, my dog is just Shelby. Come here, Shelby. Come here, come here. It's okay. She got something to say too. You know. Anyway, but we're in this time where it's gosh, how do I mean, there really aren't norms. I, I'm
No.
seeing companies.
Tumultuous, it's unpredictable.
Well,
It's
weeks ago, I mean, we
yeah.
have companies that are actually ghost posting. I've never
Yeah.
seen. They're actually ghost posting to, hey, we're hiring. For a
Hmm.
few of them, they go through the process, and then there's a budget cut, or then there's a this, or there's a that. But
Right.
or suddenly the money wasn't there, or it's just a chaotic time. And I'm curious because we're going to go through a lot in this time that we have. But what are you seeing? And on the client side and the candidate side,
Mhm.
what kind of pressures are you seeing from these folks?
Just immense on the client side, where there was pre-pandemic, pre-post-pandemic, if that makes any sense.
It
When
makes perfect sense.
Yeah, when companies were actually investing in new therapies, and it didn't matter really how many lead molecules you had as a startup, but what those were, you could find money. Well, that changed considerably, and companies started tightening their belts. And like you said, there was a lot of funny stuff, not just ghost posting, but heads of organizations deciding to move forward, and then based on what they're seeing in the market or they're hearing from investors, um, at the time when hiring starts or bringing on consultants or contractors start, um, there could be a sudden pullback. And for the companies, it can the effect on the employees can be everything from you know not having a job to those that were in VP roles being paid very well to do not only the role as VP, but production level roles. I have a friend that's she's a VP of drug safety, and she told me, Mo, I'm the highest paid processor, case processor in the world, I think.
Wow.
And then where I see that it's more of a tragedy is on the side of the professional, those that were gainfully employed. You and I saw some of this back in the dot-com day. You couldn't find a Java developer because they were all working. And then when the bus hit,
Right.
these guys that were buying big houses and Mercedes Benz and stuff like that couldn't feed their families. And you have these folks that were gainfully employed, that were doing well, that were fielding recruiting calls, um, and it couldn't answer all of them, to hoping that their spouses, or their significant others, or their families could help support their household.
Mm.
And when you're on the side that you and I are on, and we're trying to help people find jobs, um, and you're hearing not one or two of these stories, but 100 of them in a year, it's difficult to contend with. And the
Yeah.
only thing that we can do is really to help guide people, um, because we've seen this history happen before, to treat their jobs or their consultancies as a business, and know that business is going to ebb and flow. And if you prepare
Right.
for it, then you're going to get less of a shock on the front end. But that's rarely conveyed, to those that are looking for work. And
It really isn't.
it's
And
difficult.
and one of the things that's really interesting to me, we're looking for DPTs that are fresh out of school. And what I'm finding, because with what we do at JPT, it's such a niche. They're not, and I think there's an entrepreneurial part to it, but people are just afraid to explore something that they haven't thought of before. Like home health is different. It's not, hey, you get your DPT and then you go to a hospital, right? And that people are opting for safety over dollar
Yeah,
because it's, you know what I mean? And that's just one sector. And you have represented people at the forefront of amazing medical technologies. It's really incredible. Um, you know, from being at RHI, my arch nemesis, because Lisa Wong left me on my first day. San Jose was my office to beat.
yeah,
But
right,
that's where
right.
but that's where you and I really gained a tremendous amount of respect for one another,
Yeah,
because and we were coming out of that .com thing.
yeah.
People forget the what was it, the summer of 20, was it 20, or I'm sorry, 2002 or 3.
2001, 2002, something like that. Long,
All of a
too
sudden,
too too long ago to remember what year it was, but yeah, back
well,
then,
well,
yeah,
but we're talking about a bubble that had burst, and all of us knew it was going to burst. But it
yeah.
was such a shock to people that were just working,
Oh
and
yeah,
suddenly, oh my gosh, I can't make this $700 lease payment on this Mercedes that I just leased.
exactly,
And
exactly.
so I hear you on that. I just feel
Yeah,
that there's a lot of chaos is thing I can the only word I can think of. We've been on hiatus because we're developing a show called Work Your Career Extra. And the whole idea of that show, and I think I talked to you about it before, is that it was supposed to be funny. We were supposed to be calling out people that just make bonehead mistakes and wonder, like literally, they're posting on Recruiting Hell on Reddit and they're
yeah.
just shocked. They're just, well, why did that happen? And then, amazing. I showed up in flip flops and they suddenly had a problem with that, whatever,
Right, right.
but it was more so to call out the incredibly ridiculous hiring practices that a lot of
Oh yeah,
companies have.
oh
And
yeah,
being on the outside looking in at this point, it was really kind of fun to do. Well, over the
yeah,
last 2 or 3 weeks, we've been looking at Reddit, and I'm going to tell you, brother, I can't do that show the way I was going to do it. This is sad. There's one lady, she posted on there and said that she had submitted her resume over 1,000 times. Out of the 1,000, she got 31 interviews. Out of those 31, she was looking at two that were potentially, like, one she might get an offer, and the other one she hopes she's going to get an
yeah.
offer. And the comments were, and I guess maybe because you have time to post on Reddit and comment on it, the comments were tragic. and this is it is non industry specific. It is completely agnostic.
Yeah.
Engineering, data science, whatever it is, artificial intelligence, even.
Yeah.
And I know we went through the .com thing, but Mo, I haven't seen it like this, where people are so like. Let me put it this way: I was listening to an X Space the other day, and these people were talking about political strategies, what a candidate should do, what he should hit on, what all of this other stuff, and I was like, none of you are looking at the job market, like none of you. And you can look at statistics, but we both know statistics can lie, and you can look at those, but if you're not looking at what people are actually going through in the job market, you're going to miss it. You can't have common political strategies when you have a job market that is so scared. How are we going to, as business leaders, as a CEO, because it only takes one, right?
Yeah.
It only takes one. How are we going to right this ship? How in the world? What
I,
can
you know,
we
I,
do
I
to
have,
help this?
yeah, I have an opinion here. I have an opinion. I think that one, you and I know one of the toughest things to do is to educate a client. And that's in the hiring process or the interview process or any of those things. The sustaining your employees, preventing attrition, those type of things. It's very difficult
Yeah,
to educate clients. It's also very difficult to to try to convey a sense of motivation to those that are looking for work, that have experienced this, that have gone out and put out 1,000 resumes, and out of those 1,000 or applied for 1,000 positions and got 31, and then out of the 31 interviews, there's two, that come forward. You and I know that it's a game of numbers, but most
sure.
people aren't used to that. So I think what we have to do is, one, on the client side, realize that not only is retention important, but retention starts on the front end of the hiring process, and looking past the skill set that person has, and actually getting to know that person. One of the problems in the interview process is that when a client interviews someone, they think that it's an interrogation. They think they're on Law and Order or something like that, right? Where you
I'm
got the
doing
good cop and bad cop, and I'm going to
right.
try to trip this dude up. And the problem is that you don't get to know the person across the table from you.
Mm,
And you can only do that by having a conversation with them and getting them to feel at home, getting them to relax, getting them to open up. If you're not doing that, then you're missing out on some fantastic people that are really interested in what they're doing. And on the other side, if the person looking for work, whether that be a person looking for full-time employment or consultancy, if they don't understand the science behind interviewing and the science behind looking for work, and that it is a full-time job, and that you only have one document to manage when you're doing that, and that's your resume. And if that thing's not perfect, if it's not concise, if it doesn't avoid redundancy, then you're missing the boat. If you're not taking a day to prepare for the interview that you're going to, not just learning about the service offerings, but actually doing a deep dive into the executive team of that organization, whether you're interviewing with them or not, that tells you everything about the company. It tells you how they hire. It tells you how they make decisions. It gives you a view of the culture of the company. If we're not doing that as employees, and really going out there and strategically tackling every single opportunity we have and leaving us with the first right of refusal, then the company, then the approach is skewed. But I have to say, man, when you've had 1,000 applications sent out and you have 31 interviews, it's really difficult to maintain that sense of motivation that you have, that sense of self worth that you have to bring to the table.
Oh
One of
man.
the things that I like to convey is you have to approach this process with the mantra of confident humility. You have to be confident in the things that you've done and your accomplishments that you've made and your career and the things that you've overcome, and humble in your approach to people.
Mm,
Um,
that is so good. That is
the
so good.
humility piece for a lot of people is very easy. It's a confidence that it
Yeah.
is difficult for them to garner because
Yeah.
so you're on the spot, you're in the hot seat, right?
I got to tell you,
Um,
here, just a personal story. I was talking to a company not too long ago um, about a position, and then we ended up, it was changed and all of that. And that the confident humility, I go back over that conversation and truth, I haven't interviewed in I don't know, going on 2 years, 3 years, 3 years now. You know what I mean? And I
it's
really
been
didn't
more
look.
for
I mean,
me.
dude, 3 years.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
because I interviewed for Imubit,
yeah,
and I go back and think about, well, what made that different? Because I took that job and I wasn't planning on doing it, but a
right,
friend of mine said, just go see what's out there.
right,
I'd already been with my other company. I think going, I don't know, 4 years, I guess 4 years, five, I can't remember,
yeah, yeah,
but 5 years. But in that process, I ended up having, uh, I had 6 offers. And then
yeah,
when I accepted the one with Imubit, I had another one come. So I had 7 offers.
yeah,
And what was the difference there? And I remember the first question that the recruiter asked me. She goes, "Why do you want to work for us?" And I said, "Well, honestly, I don't know that I do. Why should I want to work for you?"
right,
And it wasn't in an arrogant way. It was honest, and it just kind of came out.
yeah,
But you know, the more and more, and that was kind of the way I approached it. But I didn't need to talk with them. So there was that. It's like, we talk about people coming off desperate. So
yeah,
that comes through in the interview. And after 1,000, I would say, yeah, you're probably desperate. I would say, yeah, you're probably struggling with self worth. I think a
yeah.
lot of people are in this job market. There was another Reddit post that said, maybe I'm just not as good as I thought I was, or
Oh
you know what
yeah,
I mean?
oh
There's
yeah.
all of that,
I've
and
experienced
and
that as well. Yeah, personally.
and so being on that, and again, I mean, I hadn't interviewed in a long time, but I didn't really think it was an interview, but did my due diligence, did all that, and my vibrosity came out in a pretty major way. But at the same time, I mean, it was good practice for when I'm telling other people
Sure.
about preparing, and for this show. I mean, this you hit the whole reason the show exists is exactly what you were talking about, bringing on the leaders of companies to give people an idea of what these people are thinking. We all read the same books, we all probably listen to the same podcasts, all of that. But getting into the mindset of a lot of these leaders is something that's profound. And I think we can't be any more clear. You have to do your due diligence. You have to.
Well, you can't really get into the mindset. It's because the mindset changes from day to day.
Well,
You
let me
know.
ask you about that real quick. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
don't mean to cut you off, but let me ask you
No.
about
No. Go
that.
ahead.
Are we are are leaders in whatever space that
Mhm.
they're in, and you happen to be in an amazing space. Former, well, I can't say former, but Edge Alliance has done amazing things in the medical field. And now with your new company, Project Alliance, my gosh, you guys are poised to just do incredible things. But obviously, you're seeing some of this too.
Yeah.
But is from on the client side,
Mhm.
are we seeing a similar attitude that we saw 20 years ago when it was like, well, if they don't want it, there's 12 more people that do. And
You
that's
know,
just not the case. I'm
that
sorry,
that
it's
that
different
that
these
be
days.
that would be the easy assumption, is because
Hmm.
we want to assume, we're kind of poised as humans to assume the worst in people, right?
Right.
But I don't think it's the case. I think what you have is you have leaders of organizations that if we're assuming the best, that are trying to make a difference and that are trying to keep their jobs too.
Huh.
And
Right.
and the nervousness or the apprehension of making a bad hire is a palatable thing, because
Right.
if they do make that bad hire, not only do they have to suffer the attrition of that hire and start over and train somebody else, but there's the economic impact that that has. I think that you and I, years ago, when we were told about the seats that we occupied at these different companies and how much they cost per year and how much they
Hmm.
cost if we don't make it, somewhere upwards of 200,000 after 6 months or something like that. And
Yeah, that's right.
that was a long time ago, man.
Hmm.
So I
Yes,
think
indeed.
that they're trying to make the right decision. We can never predict what people are going to ask in an interview. It's impossible. People are, oh, if they ask me this and that, well, you can't predict what people are going to ask. One of my favorite comebacks and maybe I'm droning on a bit, but we're asking what these leaders are thinking. Um, but one of my favorite comebacks for the question is, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? That people are always trying to prepare for. How do I answer that question? And my
Right.
favorite answer to that is, well, where do I see myself 5 years from now? I see myself celebrating the fifth anniversary of you asking me that question. Right? So, right. What
Oh
they're
my God,
thinking.
that is awesome.
I didn't make that up. That was Mitch, rest his soul. Mitch Hedberg, I believe, is a comedian, but um, but
I
uh,
love that. I'm
they're thinking this.
celebrating the fifth anniversary of you asking me that question. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a good one.
Yes. Let's
That's a
do
good one.
that. That's a
Yeah,
clip
let's do
right
that.
there.
Let's. I'm gonna write it down. It was this date,
Love that.
but what they're thinking is how do we move things forward? And
Yeah.
I think the best way to engage with leaders that are making these decisions, that are nervous about the decisions that they're making, or maybe they found that they're overly confident and figured out, maybe, or thinking the same thing that this candidate's thinking. Maybe not, I'm not as good as I thought I was.
Hmm.
Well, if we're going into meeting with these folks and we're conveying confidence and we're conveying the humility that only experience can bring,
Right.
um, then I think they're going to be more likely to pull the trigger. I think they're going to be more likely to hire someone that comes across that way. And it's very valid to ask the question that you asked. Well, I mean, why do I want to work for you? You tell me,
Right.
because I don't know. We're not through the interview yet. You know, do I want a
Yeah.
job? Yeah, I want a job. We wouldn't be talking. It's a foregone conclusion.
Right.
Um,
It was,
so
it was a really interesting question. And, at that point, like I said, I had already been talking to a few companies and they all had their pitch. They all had their kind of, their
Yeah.
get down, and most of it, they were agencies. The only one that was an AI company was Immubit. But when she asked me that, I was like, I don't know that it was honest. I don't know that I do, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I researched the company, I thought, is this real? It just didn't even seem real to me. How
Well,
how
it's the
incredibly
whole, and
innovative they were.
apologies for interrupting, man, but as you're describing that, um, it's the whole thing of people want that. If you ask anybody what they want, I don't care
Mhm.
who it is. You ask Elon Musk, you ask anybody what they want. What do you want? It will inevitably, 100% of the time, be something that they can't have.
Mm.
And if during the interview process, you can convey the possibility that they can't have you, that only creates a bigger want. That's just human nature.
That's
So,
really big. It's hard, like we were talking about. It's really hard though for there to be a balance. There's someone else that wrote on Reddit, and again, we've been researching this for the past 3 weeks because I wanted to launch this week, but I just couldn't. I called a friend of mine and I said, "Listen, I don't know if I could do because the show would come off really bad if we did it the way that we were talking." So I don't know. We're kind of rethinking the concept at this point. But what was interesting is there was somebody that wrote on there that they felt that the interviews were no longer interviews, that they were auditions. And I'm like, well, they always have been auditions. They've
yeah,
always
kind
been
of,
auditions. You know what I
kind of.
mean? In a way, where if you have two candidates, all things being equal skills wise, or one's lacking this or that, it doesn't matter. It's the chemistry between the hiring manager, the team, the whatever, you know,
People hire
is
people they
gonna
like.
people hire people they like. So, it's such a toss up on how things get done. But you know, man,
The,
it
the
just
other
it just
elephant in the
seems so
room, man,
chaotic.
is the handsome or attractive people. Those are people that get
Man.
hired. Why do you think
Well,
I had such a difficult time? I had to start my own company because I wasn't the best looking person in the
who
room.
are you telling? Why do you think I have a show? I mean, I'm eking by
You
here. You know what I mean? I mean, if
know?
you're not going to give if you're not going to give me if you're not going to open the door for me, that's fine. I'll just make my own house. That's okay. You
Exactly.
know? I mean,
Exactly. Exactly.
Corey Jackson, CEO of Quirks, I had him on a couple weeks ago, and he put out a post on LinkedIn. Uh, well, Quirks did, the company did, and being very candid about what the other elephant in the room
Oh yeah. Oh
that we're
yeah.
not talking about, that we need, I think, to confront, and I think we need to heal from. And this is my opinion. This is just my opinion. But we know why the Great Resignation happened. Whether we like it or not, we know why. Whether you know, and I don't want to get into it because I don't want to get flagged, but you know what I mean? I mean, even that right there, not being able to discuss that openly is a problem, I think. I think
Yeah.
it's a problem for many reasons. One of the reasons is because I think it cuts the discourse and wants to put those reasons into a memory hole. And that's,
Hmm.
sorry, it's just
Yeah.
inescapable. So
Yeah.
what he was talking about is it a or was it a passing trend, or something that we're still feeling the ramifications of? And I think we're still feeling the ramifications of it. I really do.
Yeah.
I remember when I when I put my resume out there years ago, and I was asked that question, and I just refused to answer it based on my personal convictions, because the year before that, that was a HIPAA violation.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
ticked me off,
Yeah.
you know? And so are we still feeling that? And whether whatever your thoughts are on it, not yours necessarily, but in general,
Hmm.
are we still feeling that? And is there a sense of distrust on both ends of the spectrum where the leaders are having a little bit of an issue, sort of getting past it in the back of their minds, right?
Yeah.
And the candidates too. If they're going to ask that, what else are they going to ask? Some of these applications, Mo, are ridiculous. It would have gotten us fired at RHI, what they ask these days. And
Oh yeah.
so are
Well,
we like,
you even like the, I think one of the, and sorry to go off on a tangent, but,
please do,
you
it's a
know,
podcast.
we, okay, celebrate this 5 years from now. But,
Yeah, right.
you know, I think that we have to, we have to acknowledge that the people that are in the positions to hire, they're just candidates that happen to be working. We've always been taught that.
Right.
It helps us get past the conversation of, or the nervousness behind having to talk to VP or what so have you. Um, I think that everyone is still feeling the brunt of a pervasive lack of socialization.
Mm,
We're all still working from home. We the those that still are in high demand are demanding to continue to work from home, and
mm,
we're losing that human connection that we all need. It's
right.
talked about in every philosophy book on the planet, probably. And I think that because of that separation that's still felt, it makes it even more difficult for people to connect,
Right.
and it's unfortunate. So when we have the opportunity as leaders to talk to people, we got to take the time to learn, not take the time, because it's less time. It's less about time. We have to have the fortitude, and the compassion to actually learn about the person across from us, and vice versa. If we're not doing that and we're still trigger shy, um, we're going to miss out. We interviewed this intern, and she was obviously bright. And because we're experts in interviewing, we take the time to get to know everybody we meet. And my God, someone that is so, I don't want to say soft spoken, but so respectful, and has such, uh, has real manners at such an early age. You almost want to shine it on as a farce, or they're faking it, you know. But
That's
this
something.
person isn't. Has the manners of a sage, and is one of the brightest people that I've ever met. And how, if we hadn't taken the time to get to know this person, we wouldn't be as lucky as we are to have her on board, in spite of her, lack of experience. I'll talk about my wife a little bit, because she is one of those folks that loves to work. She doesn't,
Mm,
she loves to work. She loves her job. She's in a very analytical job that has, in an industry that's been hit really hard. Um, she is inevitably the smartest person or most knowledgeable person in the room at just about every company that she works at. The problem is she has an accent, And it's a type of accent that people get the wrong impression about. And it's unfortunate because it's only those people, those leaders that have taken the time to get to know her that have had the oh my God expression. And there are a lot of people out there like that these leaders are missing the boat on. You
Hmm.
know, the other end of the spectrum is how do those people that may be soft spoken, may be incredibly polite, that and it comes off as a lack of confidence. How do they convey their knowledge to those across the table from them? It's going back to that confident humility. You have to really, the first thing here's something that's interesting, Brad, is we do a lot of talks, and I've been so fortunate, man. I mean, I can't tell you. It was my old boss, and her name is Tina. You know her, man. She's one of the
Heard of
best
her.
boss. Yeah, one of the best bosses I ever had, man.
She
And
is awesome.
not one of
Yeah.
these. She was hands down the best boss I ever had, and she encouraged us to give back. So I would go and do these talks at the EDD and to help people get jobs and grow their careers. And one of the things that we talked about is preparing for an interview. And you ask the question, okay, how do you start preparing for an interview? Everybody raises their hand, and the first thing they say is research the company. No, that's not correct.
That's right.
If the first thing that you're going to research or you're going to look at is your own resume, because if you don't have that in hand and you haven't gone through and perused that and sat down and thought about the things that you've accomplished and the things that you've overcome and the challenges that you've been faced with, then how are you going to convey that confidence when it comes time to talk to the person sitting across the table from you
So important.
when you haven't thought about it? So, um, so yeah, man, I drone on a bit, but I love this stuff, and I
I let me tell you how important that is, especially for those people who feel like they're sending their resume into a black hole. It's so important to go back and because here's the other thing too, which is really annoying, is when your resume is so good and
right.
they hire somebody's based on the resume that is not. That is just, I mean,
They're just
it's
very
like I
handsome,
really don't get.
very
I
attractive.
mean, well, even if let's say they're not,
Maybe
let's
dumb as
say
a
they don't
box of
even have that.
rocks, but
Let's say,
well,
look, let's say every box is checked and they still go with the guy. It's like, what, so
what did I
important to
do?
go back to keep that confident humility. And in these times too, and maybe that's why there's a lot of these people on Reddit that are, I think a lot of it is therapy, honestly. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
you know what I mean? And trying to ask, am I alone? Is it just me? Because after a few of these, now it doesn't have to be 1,000, and that one really stuck out because I have never heard of that. I mean, it's a
yeah.
numbers game, but dude,
Yeah, that's
really?
a lot.
That's
That's
a
a
lot.
lot. Yeah,
And then, and there's a lot of word on the street of what's going to happen after November and all of that kind of thing.
yeah.
And I get that. But
It doesn't matter to you though if you're looking for a job and you
doesn't
haven't
matter to
found a
you.
job. Who
Doesn't
cares?
matter.
Who
I am
cares?
telling you, 1,000%. I am
Yeah.
telling you, what you just said is so big when you're talking about remembering, because it gets, if you're in this sort of cycle of just having your self trampled. You know what I mean? It's like,
Get
you
in
I
front of
mean,
them.
dude, it's just
Instead of doing the bull run, you just stand there and wait.
just stand there at that point. At this point, it's just
Okay,
like
all right, let's
I'm
go.
not even running. I'm not running. And the bull still misses you. You know what I mean? It's like I didn't even move,
Yeah.
and the bull still. You know what I mean? It's like a different
Uh,
place running in the bulls. You know what I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
or doing the running of the bulls, and you can't find a fence to jump on.
yeah.
At that point, it's just like screw it, just do it. I'm good,
Yeah,
please.
yeah.
Just put me out of my misery at that point. So
Like,
I love. Here's the other thing too that you said, and I love that Tina really instilled that is giving back. It's
oh,
so important because no matter where we are, there's always places where we can serve, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And, it's funny, when we go out, it's, and you're the same way, and somebody inevitably it turns to work and whatever,
yeah,
and there's always this bit of, I don't know, nugget wisdom that comes with people that are in those situations, and they would never have gotten it had they not talked to us. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And it's and vice versa. You know,
yeah. It's
it,
I think too, man. When you get, I maybe I don't think I've expressed this to you before, even though we've been friends for a long time. I'm so lucky. I'm
yeah,
so incredibly lucky. I I barely graduated high school, in spite of being tested later at a high level. Barely graduated high school. I went into the military because I was working at Taco Bell stirring beans, and I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. And I
right.
got out of the military, and I my dream was to sell cars, believe it or not.
Hmm.
And I worked in the shipyards, and I really loved working in the shipyards as well before that. Um, but I'm so incredibly lucky to have worked with people that have said, you know, you can do more, you can do better,
Yeah,
and I believe them. I actually bought it, and
so big.
if I didn't take the time to say, hey man, I'm so lucky. I got to help somebody else get lucky. Then that I definitely wouldn't have the confidence to start a company, and to start one over again. Especially, you know,
Right.
I'm getting long in the tooth, man. I gotta start. But I think that helps is to when you have an opportunity to give back. The most talented people that I've run across um, have given back, and it was almost like in their DNA. I met somebody who was a processor. She started off, and I said, "Man, there's something about this person." And I love our job because we can follow the careers of people, and we can say,
Right.
hey, you know what? I thought this person was great way back when, and they are. And this person goes from doing that to years later teaching a master's program and
Mm.
just intensely giving back and intensely doing her job. Um,
So
it's
important.
Yeah, I think it is. I really think it is, and I think that when we're focused on the important things in life, like feeding our families, keeping a roof over our heads, and you know, food on the table,
Yeah,
and when that is at risk, it's difficult to say, "Hey, let me help you." You know, um,
I get
but it
it.
gives us so much more than we give. So much more.
You know what's interesting? What you're saying is that what it all boils down to is service.
We talked about that the other day.
Yeah, yeah.
You've been in service
It's
to others your whole life.
yeah. Well, and I remember a time when when I really needed you, and
Don't
it
you?
was amazing.
You better
And
stop.
bro, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget what I wore. God, what an idiot. I remember. I mean, dude, you remember that? I had that tank top on. Oh, dude, it was so funny. Anyway, I very mad at that point. But anyway, hey, let's get to paying some bills real quick. Do you mind?
Oh, if that's what you
Stick
gotta
with
do,
me. Stick
let's
with me
do
because
it.
I'm gonna include you in one of these commercials. So if
All
you have
right.
anything, everything, and anything that you want documented via video, even billboards in Times Square, or what's really cool is testimonials, go and log on to White Husky Films. You can go to www.whitehuskyfilms.com. First thing you got to do, it's very simple. You got to dream. And then you got to think about creating. And then we hit record in that order. When you choose White Husky, you'll be so glad you did. The product offerings are very, very, they've just become really specialized, and they were there for me when I started this show. So I'm forever in their debt, and just love them to bits. Go ahead and log on to www.whitehuskyfilms.com. Again, dream, create, record in that order. When you choose White Husky, you'll be so glad you did. And guys, we're still hiring. James PT, we talked a little bit about it with Mo, and I will tell you, you're going to be talking to me. So log on to LinkedIn and apply, or go to janespt.com. We are looking to for 4 to 6. It keeps on fluctuating, but 4 to 6 PTs. And you know what? If you're, check this out, Mo, you're going to love this. We're actually hiring grad DPTs, doctors of physical therapy, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
It's an amazing opportunity right out the gate to make an incredible living. And again, we're hiring grads. We're talking to people from LSU, St. Augustine. I mean, you name it.
Let's
We've
go.
constructed a crazy relocation package. We have incentives. We have an incentive program right now that is so cool. And I'm going to tell you where I got it from. I got it from oil and gas. I got it from oil and gas with a certain bonus that you can get for signing a document. I'm just telling you. I can't
Awesome.
say that, but that's what it is. That's what it is. An incredible sign-on bonuses. I just said it. There you go. And
Yeah.
and just incredible incentives. The relocation package is incredible, and it's really been it's an honor to be a part of building this HR division and this recruiting division in an incredible company. It's been around for almost 10 years, and is growing so much it's bursting at the seams. So give me a call. That's my Texas number, 713-364-8777. Find us on LinkedIn. Just go to Jane's Physical Therapy in the search tab, or get in touch with me directly. Just Bradley Clark. I did change my photo so I don't look like I'm a Remax agent anymore. But I will tell you, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying I look like I can sell your house. That's what that like my logo looks like. I'm trying to sell you barbecue sauce
Barbecue
or hot
sauce.
sauce, Uncle Brad's barbecue sauce. It's the same thing. But log on there, get in touch with me, send us your resume. I cannot wait to talk with you. And that's it, and that's all. One more that I got to talk about: if you have any sort of jewelry um, needs, go to Klein's Jewelry. They are Houston legends, legendary jewelers. Been around since 1969, if you can believe it. So that means a lot of the engagement rings that are floating around Houston they probably originated at Klein's. So they have a brand new location in Hedwig Village. You also find them on uh, Woodway, and just go and log on to kleinsjewelry.com, and they will fulfill your jewelry needs. So go there. They're great. All right, man. Thanks for doing that with me. It's so when we're talking about um, the entirety of what we're seeing in the marketplace, right? And it's really interesting because even a lot of the grads that I'm talking to, going into a clinic or a hospital, they're not going to make the money that I'm offering. Yet there's still safety in a clinic or a hospital.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure. Sure.
And so I think we're hitting it right on the head. The one thing that we have forgotten, and we have to get back to it. First of all, it is not business as usual. It's just not. It's a different climate. People are thinking differently. There's a feeling of apprehension. I think people are nervous because they don't know what they're going to face day to day, and they're certainly not prepared for it in a way that if there a lot of folks, if there's an emergency, they're $1,000 emergency away from homelessness. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, it's a
Yeah.
big deal. You
Yeah.
know, and that's goes across the board. I think I think we have to. I just don't think there's a pendulum anymore. I think the pendulum has dropped.
Hmm.
I don't think there's one to swing back to. I think it's dropped, and I think it's a good thing. I think that now we can address things head on. We have to be honest with ourselves, and we have got to remember. I don't care what. I don't care if you're a candidate, if you're a leader, if you're a director, if you're an individual producer. Doesn't matter. If you're not focused on service, because if you think about it, that's what manners that's what it like manners is.
Yeah.
You're respecting the person for being alive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Manners. I mean, manners. One of my favorite sayings is "manners maketh man." I think the right way to
Yeah.
put that is "manners maketh people."
Yeah.
And if you're not, if you're not expressing that in your day to day lives, if you're not, even it's the way it harkens back to what the people that were raising us taught us. Some of us were raised by grandparents. Some of us were raised by moms.
Yeah.
Some of us were raised by moms and dads, the lucky ones, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, but
Mine
if we're
too. Yeah.
not showing the respect that others deserve, then we're selling ourselves short. The other thing that, again, one of my favorite bosses on the planet taught me is that if you're as a leader, if you're not willing to sacrifice your job to protect
Mm-hmm.
those that are working with you or for you, then you're not a true leader. Um,
1,000% accurate.
you have
Thousand
to
percent
be
accurate.
you have to be
Yeah.
willing to say, hey, you know what? I don't care what the political stance of the organization or the cultural stance of the organization says about this person that's working with me. They're absolutely phenomenal at what they do, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to allow you to sell them short. Um,
I tell you
like I
what.
said,
I tell you what. Tina was amazing at that. Um,
oh,
had I
incredible.
not met her, I would never have known this business existed.
Yeah, she's
And
incredible.
and yeah, she is. She
She
is, and
wrote
she
she
knows
wrote
she.
she wrote a letter when we were working together. Her and I were working together. That basically, I was in line I had done this. She got me involved with the volunteerism, and then it transitioned into training, and they had me going all over the place to train. And they said, "Hey, you can design your own job." Well, in order to do that, she would be reporting to me. And she wrote this letter of recommendation that if I read it today, I'm going to break down in tears. And it's so
Do you have it?
unfortunate. No, I haven't, but I'm not going to read it. And you're going to try to make
I
me
wish
cry?
you
Is that
would.
what you're saying, man?
Yes.
No, I'm not
Look,
doing it.
man.
Um,
You know what? It's great TV. And
there you go. There you go.
but the
No,
reason no,
but
but here's the reason that I'm suggesting you do that. Because again, people across the board are getting trampled,
yeah.
and they forget. Look, you're a CEO, but you weren't groomed to be a CEO from a young age. I mean,
Mhm.
you were going to be working on the docks or stirring
I
beans or
was
doing
selling
whatever,
balloons
which
because I couldn't get a job when I
selling
was.
balloons, whatever. No, because and that's been my thing throughout the years. There have been people that have just gotten me completely wrong. In which case, I got me completely wrong.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then later on, there were people that really believed in me. And one of the people that I wish I could find is Tom Call. You remember him from
Tom
RHI?
Call. Yes, I
Tom
remember
Call.
him.
That guy, he came from Hall Kenyon,
Yeah,
and
no, I
he
remember
was the
Tom.
guy.
He's a
Yep, he
wonderful
was the
guy.
guy that hired me at RHI. I loved that guy. Him and his
Todd
Diet Cokes. That was
Webster
his
was
big thing.
Todd Webster was mine. He
Oh
would,
my, yep.
yeah,
Well,
he'd be behind me and
yeah,
pick that phone back up, you know.
that's right.
But
The
I
phone ain't gonna
think
dial
that
itself.
yeah, phone ain't gonna dial itself. What are you doing? No, you didn't say it right. Call him back. Right? Get in
That's
your
right.
car. If you remember, we used to print resumes out and go
Yeah,
out and visit clients. You
I
know,
remember that,
can you
and think that's an amazing practice.
if can you imagine if you're hiring a team of people and someone showed up to your doorstep with their resume and
Hmm.
asked you if you had time to speak? So you're a busy person. Would you give them that time?
Of course.
That's somebody
I
I
mean, if
want
somebody showed up to look,
working with
here's
me.
here's the reason I say that is because maybe not so much in your niche anymore, but the cover letter has gone the way of the dodo
We have a
bird,
dinosaur. Yeah, I tell
right?
people, ain't nobody gonna read that. Ain't nobody got
Well,
time for that.
and I mean now, I mean, what's funny is that when I was placing a few PhDs and their whole get down, it was for a defense contractor, and their whole get down was to write for grants. Like that was their whole job, was to write for grants, for grant money,
Yeah,
and you had to be able to write well. That was
right,
part of it. But
right.
now, my gosh, you got AI. How do you know what is actually being written is for what I mean is from the person? So that's but the reason that I say that is when I would get a cover letter, I would always read them because the person took the time to write
You're
it.
an anomaly, man. You're an anomalous dinosaur because not nobody does it, and it's because it's the whole AI thing is kind of part of it. You know, I've tested it and I have been shocked at what this will produce. My
Yeah,
brother is in the entertainment industry. He would get people ready for the red carpet. He's a stylist and very creative.
yeah,
And AI went and put him out of work. But you know, it's the cover letter, the writing, the interaction, the actual going into interview. An interview is something great, in my opinion, and
yeah.
it's been lost. I mean, the
Well,
part of it has been lost.
it really is. There's an art to it,
Yeah.
and it's funny when you're prepping a candidate. I am I kid. I don't know if you know who this is, but I had Amy Miller on, and the reason she got on my radar is because she had this post on LinkedIn where she was talking about how recruiters these days aren't prepping their candidates correctly. And I'm like, yeah, that is an absolute
Period. What
fact.
do you
And
mean correctly?
I'm, oh my gosh. So there was somebody that commented, and and I still can't believe I read this, but she goes, yeah, I don't prep my candidates. She's a TA. I don't prep my candidates because I want the hiring manager to have an authentic view of, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the greatest justification of getting out of doing
Right.
my job
Right.
that I've ever seen. And she was double down on it. Like she was
Yeah.
serious. I go
Yeah.
to her LinkedIn,
I'm
lofty
going to make
titles.
you some. I'm
Amazing.
going to make you some. I'm going to make you some barbecue, but I'm not going to season it because I don't want you. I want you to taste.
I want you to taste the authenticity of the, like, can you taste the grass? Can you taste the grass? That's so dumb. Are you kidding me? You know what I mean?
uh,
It's ridiculous. And so part of it, and let's get into that real quick. So
yeah,
part of what I'm seeing too is we have recruiters, if you can call them that either aren't being taught the fundamentals. If you don't move, if you stick with the basics, you'll never have to go back to them. Period.
yeah,
So either they're not being taught the fundamentals, or they have been taught, and of course they know better.
Brad.
I mean,
It's
what in the world?
were you had Tom Hall, right?
Tom
I had
Call. Yep.
Tom Hall, excuse me. I had Todd Webster, and there was no real teaching. It was just like, okay, you got to do this, you got to do that.
Right.
Where
That's true.
where where I learned is from just being a student of the business, and I
Right.
remember working at one of the largest. I'm not going to say who it is because it's just
Yeah.
it's it was an atrocity. So I had
It
to
was what?
train. It was an atrocity. What happened? I had to train recruiters because we couldn't pay to hire recruiters with experience. So I went
Mm.
on to their intranet to find training for recruiters. The page hadn't been built. I am talking about one of the, I mean, it was egregious. I'm talking about one of the biggest firms on the planet. Actually called into headquarters, and they said, yeah, that site's been down for a couple of years now. And part of it is
Wow.
how I got involved with training recruiters, but um, yeah, it wasn't there. And I think in order to be successful in any business that you choose, whether it's working in shipyards, which I actually really enjoyed,
Yeah.
or recruiting or whatever, you've got to be a student of your business. You have to
Yeah.
find the information out there. And no, man, the barrier to entry, I didn't graduate from college. I came out of the car business. The barrier to entry for recruiting is lower than just about any as far as education. There's really, I mean, what kind of education is there for recruiting?
I mean, I think
There's
for the longest
HR, but
time,
that's different,
well, I
right?
think for the longest time I was applying to the wrong jobs because apparently they needed a PhD in talking to people, and I thought I had to accomplish that, but apparently not. You know what I mean? I I think that one of the reasons why I have such a burden on my heart for these people, and I think another reason why I have a burden for people that are in these times is I've seen what these times can do to people.
Yeah,
I've seen what chaos did in my own life. You know, I
yeah,
mean, I'm going on. I stopped counting how many years I've been sober
yeah,
at this point, and it's I I I saw what happens when economies go down, and but that's an ebb and flow thing, and that's a business thing. And but I think one of the reasons why I have such a burden for these people is because I hear that all the time. The barrier to entry of a recruiter is so low.
yeah,
I hear that all the time.
yeah,
And I'm like, well, if that's the truth, why are they even, why have they not just looked at my resume, been absolutely wowed, and just, what, my God, he is incredible. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And
yeah,
so especially with this show, and I can't think of another person, or maybe one other person that is just, their opinion matters to me so much, because both of us, and I would include the three of us, have seen incredible levels of success, life changing amounts of money, have seen the ebb and flows of business. In some cases, decided, you know what? I can do this. I'm going to do this. And you did do this. And you led from the front. CEO isn't just, you're not sitting back going, well, I wonder what incentive plan we have today. You know what I mean? You're actually leading from the front, and you have done that for as long as I've known you. I don't think that comes from military. I think that comes from Mr. and Mrs. Little. That's who I think. You know what I mean? That's a family trait, I think. And so,
Definitely from single parent.
well, there you go. I think that, and I get that too. Yeah, well, you
Mm.
know. And so I just feel I just the show that I thought was going to be hilarious, because it would have been, like, it really would have been funny. For example, and I'll just real quick, it's a podcast. We can go off on tangents all we want.
Yeah, yeah.
There was one person that wrote on that feed. Oh, this is so good. I actually, this was on another show that I did a few months ago, navigating recruiting challenges. And oh, man. So this guy, he wants to get a job in the state that he's from, right? He's got a family now. He's all doing that. So he wants to relocate back to where he's from. He gets a company, and the recruiter did a phenomenal job, prepped
Great.
him right, did
Awesome.
a background on everyone he was going to meet with. I mean, it was thorough, and the recruiter couldn't have done any better. It was fantastic. So, problem with what the recruiter did, and I know this is this trying to get, especially multiple people, to talk to somebody inside of a company, is next to impossible. You have to be a subject matter expert. They have to respect you. And if you tell them, listen, I need you available on Tuesday at 10 o'clock, they have to trust they have to trust you,
If there's something behind it. Yeah.
that there's something behind it. And that's another thing. I don't think recruiters are I think they've been relegated so much to the back that they've forgotten that that's their role. But anyway, this guy, uh, she schedules it for a week out. That was kiss of death. TKD, time kills deals. We all know that.
Yeah.
So they ended up flying him out. He ended up meeting with two people that were not the people that he was going to meet with. And it was an 18-minute interview. Can you
oh,
imagine, for a week?
oh.
This guy is excited. Obviously, they're interested because they're flying me out. Oh, and I'm talking to the VP. It's going to be great. Oh, I'm going to get oh man, they are, the recruiter's done an amazing job. And so he questions them. He says, well, okay, now I don't know what happened. He never really got an explanation. I can pretty much guarantee, I could tell you what
Yeah,
happened.
you
I
don't
already,
get
I already
explanations.
know. I already know what happened with that. And
Yeah.
in fact, go watch navigating recruiting challenges. I go in depth on it. But they told him, I could not believe they said this. I said, well, it was so short. Like, you guys flew me in. Like, it was so short. He goes, well, we typically do this to see if there's chemistry. Are you serious? You fly people out to see if there's chemistry for 18 minutes,
Yeah.
and you don't meet with the right. Sure. Gotcha.
Manners, respect, and I
Unbelievable.
and I think that when I don't want to come. I'm a recruiter at heart. I started doing it, started
Yeah.
recruiting, right? And I don't want to come off as saying, "Oh, recruiter's bad" or anything like that. It's just the opposite.
Recruiting's
I
awesome.
it is. It really is. And there are those, like the person that you talked about. She or he is not doing that to close a deal. They're doing it because they're passionate. They're taking those steps because they're
Yeah.
passionate about what they're doing. The
Right.
problem isn't the people behind the seats of recruiting. It's the companies that are running these recruiting practices. You and
Yeah.
I know that had we not put out 100 calls a day, had we not had 25 interviews a week when we were recruiting, 25
Hmm.
interviews, 5 interviews a day, we'd be gone. It
Right.
is impossible to have any type of depth doing 5 interviews a day. You have to
Right.
keep them to 45 minutes a spot. You have to go back and record those interviews. You got to take notes. And potentially, yeah, it can be done today. You've got AI, or you've got these, you can
It
dictate the
can't.
word and stuff like that,
It
but
can't
still,
though. I
and
mean, as long
and
as people are doing the job, you're gonna
yeah,
have to have people, you know, doing the interviews and seeing if the chemistry. AI can't predict that. I'm sorry, I don't care. What's so
no,
funny on LinkedIn?
I get it,
Oh
but
my
it's the
god,
demand
dude.
that's put on these people that forces them to do subpar jobs. You
Yeah, that's
know,
true.
I mean, it's difficult. They don't last. I don't know anyone who I don't know anyone who I was friends with or colleagues with, that save one person that's still at the same company as a recruiter or
I know who you're
anything
talking
else.
about. That's right.
Yeah,
Yep. And he's
anyone.
great too. We talking
Yeah,
about the same person? Dave?
I think so. I think he's in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
went to Oakland. And
yeah,
then
yeah.
and
Ding, ding, ding,
he's
ding.
yeah, he's another guy that
Yeah,
I just have a lot of respect for. Like that
yeah.
guy is amazing. And I
Yeah.
think you're right. I don't know. I don't either. Man, we're coming
And
up on
it's,
it. Listen,
yeah.
this has been so good, Mo. This has been so good. I
Oh man,
want you to
I've had a
stick
lot
around
of
for
fun, man.
well, I want you to stick around for final thoughts, okay?
Okay.
And let's see if we can jar some good takeaways. But stick with us. We will be right back with final thoughts. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much, Mo, for coming on today and just be. I mean, just authentic. If you notice, like we're throwing around this term authentic a lot lately. Authentic, it used to be real. Now it's authentic, and
Keep it real. Keeping it
keeping it
real.
real. And keeping it real goes wrong. Shout out Dave Chappelle. We love you. Um, but I think it's like anything else. If you're telling me it's so authentic more often than yeah, I'm trying to see if it really is. You know what I mean?
Why do you need to
But yeah,
say it?
like, why do you need to say it, man? Why do you need to say it? But
Let me
this,
tell you the truth. What were you telling me before?
what?
When somebody's
Right,
telling
right.
you,
I
let me
love
tell
that.
you the truth.
Well, let me be honest with you.
Right.
Great. Well, thanks for telling me. You've been lying to me for the past hour. It's really great. But thanks so much. We got into things that I wanted to get into, but I wasn't sure that we were going to. And this is the kind of dialogue that we need to have, you know, and just being real and being authentic about things. Uh, and I think one of the things that there's two takeaways for me from this show. Well, there's several, but the two are being honest with yourself, you know, looking at that resume and remembering the accomplishments that we've had, because when you're getting trampled, man, I get it. And that's, again, I think that's why I have a burden for these people, because I understand what that feels like. By the time you get to that 30th interview, it's like, I don't know why you should be interviewing me. Honestly, I'm as surprised as you. And, I mean, here's what I made before. I kind of like a 10% bump, but whatever you're going to do. Um, you know what I mean? Oh, well, yes, I did bill several $100,000, or yes, I did save that company $1.2 million. Yeah, I don't know either, but if we can make it work, that's great. You know what I mean? Like, that can happen. But the other takeaway too is, I think we have to get back to an era of service. And really, when it boils down, what it all boils down to is that idea that we have something valuable to give. Let's give it. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think we all do. I think we all have something valuable to give, and just we have to we have to remember what it is. You talked earlier about being in a space where you're thinking, am I good enough anymore? Or you get to that point when you've been interviewing, or you're at your third company or something. Am I really? And I think that you have to, one, be honest with yourself, but two, have the drive to know that you're good enough, and to keep getting better, and keep figuring things out, and keep continuing to be a student of your business. You going into into these Reddit posts, I mean, that's part of it. It's not easy to read, and it's not easy to look at what people are going through. But I think that in order to be a student of business, or your business, you have to do that as well. I guess what I have to say in closing is just, if you're on the other side of the table and you're interviewing, just realize that you're a candidate that happens to be working, and the tables could be easily turned. And take the time to understand the person, and to learn about the person that's sitting across from you first, before thinking about filling the position. And if you're on the other side of the table, take the time to study the science of interviewing, not just for this company, but for every company that you're talking to. Do your due diligence, exercise before an interview. It's a great boost of confidence. Um, Understand your resume, peruse your resume, learn about the executives in the organization, find out how this company hires, and understand that it's your job to get the offer, and to have the first right of refusal. And if I would venture to say that if you go into every engagement with that attitude, whether it's 30 out of 1,000 applications that you've submitted, then your chances are going to be a lot greater. So, and I had a wonderful time hanging out with you, man.
That was awesome. All of that. And I did too, bro. I did too. We were catching up the other day, and
Yeah,
it was great. But again, these conversations are why podcasts are a thing. To have them, to have these, this dialogue, to where we can we can chop it up, and it's meaningful.
yeah,
It's meat. It's not
yeah.
fluff. And brother, I love you. And I really do. And thanks so much for coming on today. But don't
Love
go
you too,
anywhere. Don't go
man.
anywhere. We're about to sign off, but don't go anywhere. Guys, if you enjoyed this, please like, share, and subscribe. You all know that I always forget to do it, but you look at that bell. I'm telling you right now, you ring it, sling it, ding it, and bo bang it. All right. That's what you want to do. And we'll be letting you know when the next show's on. Um, but guys, just also, I'm speaking for Mo. JPT, White Husky, Klein's. There's other people I didn't mention. Does it take too much time that have hitched their wagon to us, guys? Um, do you know that I was in a rideshare service the other day, Mo? I get in the car and they have some sort of, I don't know if it was attached to the car or whatever, but Worker Career Wednesday was on. So we're
Oh shit!
I, yeah,
Let's
it was
go.
super cool. It was super cool. So, but guys, know this, that I love you and God bless you. And let his face shine upon you and give you great peace. Be excellent to yourself, be excellent to each other, and we will catch you next week. All right? Talk to you soon, guys.